Welcome back to Impact Podcast. This is Jeremy Melton. I'm your host. Today we have Maddie, and we have a guest. This is our interview week. This is number 14, episode number 14, 1-4. And this week our guest, his name is Miller McGowan, and we're going to meet him in just a minute. Before we do, Maddie, let's talk about passion. What happened last week? What was your takeaway?
One of the big things that Daniel said was, can you train passion? And I think by the end of the episode, if you haven't listened, go listen to it, because we realized that you absolutely can train passion, which could be up for debate, I guess. Some people might disagree. But I also think that one of my key takeaways was change creates growth.
Change creates growth. 100%. That's good. And I think you're right. If Daniel's not with us this week, but if he were here, I think he would say that very thing. It was cool because he asked the question, right? Mm-hmm. And then we were like, yeah. And I was like, I don't know. And then before the end of the show, we were like, yeah, you can definitely.
Right.
And so that's good. All right, cool. So this week's Miller McGowan. Miller comes to us. This is one of Daniel's neighbors. Daniel likes to bring his neighbors on the show, and I love it. And so the really cool part about this particular episode is I don't know Miller at all. Never spoke to him. This is the first time I've seen him, and so I like to talk to people. I think he does too, and so this should be a really good show. And my understanding, Miller, before you get into it, is you're a military guy. So that's exciting to me. I love the military. So like to talk about that. So Maddie, do you know Miller?
We've met, but definitely don't know him as well as what I think I will after this episode.
Yeah.
Apparently people don't know that our neighborhood is just full of leaders.
Yeah. Hey,
impactful leaders.
Impactful leaders. We're turning a whole new show into something great.
That's good.
It's good. So Miller, tell us who you are, what you do, and how you lead first. Well, first tell me about your family. Tell me about you and your family, and then we'll get into the leadership stuff.
Okay. Well, for me, born and raised in North Carolina, and currently married with 4 kids. I've been married for 13 years to my beautiful wife, Ansley. We have a yours, mine, and 2 ours. I have a 16-year-old daughter, 15-year-old stepson, and then a 7-year-old going on 18-year-old daughter, and a 5-year-old ball of noise and colors, and my 5-year-old son. So yeah, I am a military guy. I enlisted into the U.S. Army in 2011 and served in the Army for going on about 7.5 years. Got out in 2018. I served in the combat infantry for about 4.5 years, and then I did 3 years of Army recruiting. What is significant about my short little stint in the Army was I didn't join until I was 26. I actually had my 27th birthday while I was in basic training. And as you heard, I was a combat infantryman. So the only people who are dumb enough to choose combat infantry when they join the Army are 18 and 19-year-olds straight out of high school that said, I want to go play Army like I did in my backyard, right? Well, when I joined up, I joined up because I was doing really bad at being an adult. I went and got my college degree, which is a bachelor's degree in theater. And I got that degree because, I had to graduate, and the business department didn't want to keep me, and the psychology department didn't want to keep me. So the theater department welcomed me with open arms. So I got a bachelor's degree in theater pretty much just so I wouldn't be the first person in my family to not graduate with a bachelor's degree. And then I went on and joined, I got a job at Marriott Hotels and ended up working my way up kind of in the kitchens and in the restaurants. Both front of the house, back of the house, cooked, chefed, led my way. But I just was I wasn't finding any purpose in that.
So when did you graduate high school?
2002.
Okay.
And then
And where did you go to high school at?
I went to Mount Airy High School, which is in Mount Airy, North Carolina, home of Andy Griffith Mayberry. So my grandmother grew up across the street from the Andy Griffith. So
Nice.
yeah, it's fun.
So in 2002, you graduated high school, and then you know that was at 18. You're saying you went to work at the Marriott.
No, I went to college from 2002 to 2007. Took me 5 years to get a 4-year degree in theater.
Okay, I got you.
There's a theme to this. All right, it's leading up to something. And then so I graduated college in 2007. So then from 2007 to 2011, I worked for Marriott.
Okay.
Marriott's a great company. I worked between about 3 different hotels in Charlotte, North Carolina, was where I was working. And yeah, I mean, I learned a lot. You know, I was a leader at that time. I was leading front of the house, leading back of the house, which for those of you that haven't worked in food industry, front of the house is your restaurant where you eat. Back of the house is where the cooks are. So then just kind of realized that I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't going anywhere fast. So I needed a change in my life, and that's where the Army came in.
Okay, so in 2012, you went to the Army.
2011, I enlisted
Yeah.
And went. Graduated basic training June 6th, 2011. And yeah.
Nice. Okay. Excellent. All right. Talk about your blended family for just a minute. So I ought to have a blended family, so that's interesting. You said you have 7?
4.
No, I'm sorry. 4 kids.
4 kids.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay.
7. God bless. No. No.
4 kids. You have 1, she has 1, and y'all have 2. And then
Correct.
Okay. And y'all had 2
We
together.
had 2 together.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Yeah. So, we both had one when we met, which we met a month after I graduated basic training. I was stationed in Fort Stewart, Georgia, and which is right outside of Savannah. And we met on Match.com. She was a 20-year-old college student at Armstrong Atlantic State University, which is now Georgia Southern. So, it's Georgia Southern's Armstrong campus. But yeah, so we met about a month after I graduated basic training. I didn't have a car. I didn't have money. All of my paycheck was basically going to my daughter's mother. And I was 27 years old, freshly out of basic training, living in barracks with psycho 18-year-olds, not wanting to do anything. I went to your local rent to own and bought an Xbox and a TV and ended up, I'll let my wife tell that story. But, so we met, and then 3 months later we were married. And it wasn't a shotgun wedding. It was just one of those, when you know, you know. I was with my daughter's mother for about 3.5 years, and we had never gotten married. And I just said, that was just way too long. I know that I want to marry this woman. And I want you to marry me. And she said, if you give me a legit proposal, I'm not just saying, let's go to the run of the courthouse, but if you give me a legit proposal, I'll marry you the next week.
Wow.
So I set it up, did a legit proposal out in the middle of Savannah, historic Savannah, and we got married a couple weeks later. That was October 2012. And yeah, then our first year in marriage, I was basically gone through trainings. As soon as we got married, I was gone to Arizona to train. Then I was back. Then I was gone to California to train. And then I was back. And then in February of 2012, I deployed to Afghanistan. And I was there until October of 2012. So like I said, that first year of marriage, I was gone.
Wow.
What was great about it is that so my stepson, who is 15 now, he turns 16 next month, was about 2.5 when I came into the picture. And I had, like I said, about a 2.5-year-old as well, but she was living with her mom. And not going to go into the whole thing, but during my deployment, my daughter got dropped off with my now wife, who really hadn't seen my daughter and knew my daughter very much because of the distance. And so my wife took her in, and I still had probably 4 or 5 months left of deployment, and I was over in Afghanistan. And she took her in, and when I got home, I said, I don't want this to end, and filed for custody and won.
Wow.
And now my daughter's 16 years old. And granted, my 16-year-old daughter and 15-year-old stepson, they don't act like their brother and sister when they're in school. They actually avoid each other like the plague. But that's teenage boys and girls. But at home, I mean, they're pretty much blood. They've been brother and sister since they were 3.
That's very cool.
So yeah.
Very cool. So I think we're going to be here longer than an hour. And that's a good thing. So I want to hear about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so what do you do currently?
So currently I'm a recruiter for Lowe's Home Improvement. Might have heard of it.
Oh, yeah,
Home
I've heard of
Improvement
that.
Company.
Yeah. So
Retail
do
brand.
you office here in
No,
Madison?
so I work from home.
Okay.
I work remotely.
Okay.
And because I take care of management roles that are store level and above. So your assistant store managers, your store managers, and then your district managers, the ones that cover the stores. So
You're recruiting for those roles.
I recruit for those roles. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. That's very interesting. So that's good. I suppose you know a lot about leadership then.
I have to know how to pick a good leader out.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's good
For
stuff.
sure.
That's excellent. All right, so and your wife, what does she do?
She is in healthcare. She does ultrasound. Not the babies. She does like diagnostic ultrasound. So right now she works for a doctor's practice that is called like blood. She does breast ultrasounds and blood ultrasounds to hopefully ward off cancer or find cancer or hopefully not find cancer. So
Yeah, so my wife tore her ACL a while back, and we went to check it the other day. She was concerned that she may have a blood clot, and so we went to the hospital, and they were like, "We got to do ultrasound." I was like, "What?"
Yep.
So that's how they see if you have a blood clot.
Yep.
Learned all kinds of
She
stuff.
has done very, very many of those kind of scans. Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, so Maddie, do you have any questions about his personal life? We just he just unboxed it.
Yeah.
And I'm digging it. Like,
Yeah, I love it. I love
we
it.
got a lot to talk about.
Well, I think it's good to give us the grounding from your background because it makes you relatable.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And there's a lot of our listeners that are going, yeah, I want to hear about that. And so, and 2, you always find out what makes a man tick by what he talks about, right? And so when he starts talking about his deployment, oh man, I want to talk about that. And I know it. I know he knows I'm going to ask him about that. But okay, so before we do that, how would you say that you personally lead others right now?
So my personal leadership style is I'm what I like to call, and I did not coin this, a servant leader. If those of you don't know what a servant leader is, it means that I lead by doing whatever I can to help my team succeed. So if they, if I need to take on some of the little roadblocks to make sure that they succeed, or little roadblocks to make sure that they, complete their task, then I will do what I can to take that on. I want to develop them. I want them to, I want to delegate my little tasks to them so that they have something that they can take on and do and become empowered. So my leadership style is to do everything I can for my people so that they succeed, because if they succeed, I succeed. So
That's right. It's on point. That echoes the teaching we had several weeks ago. I don't remember what week it was. But yes, that echoes that. Jesus was a servant leader.
yes, he was.
Yeah. So we also did a podcast a while back, and I hate to talk more about what we did before, but Tyler Parsh was on, and he was a battalion chief for Rotterdam Fire, and he was a servant leader at heart for sure. All right. So let's talk about your impact.
Okay.
Because that's what we do, right? We're on the show called Impact Podcast. What's most important on this show anyway is how do you want to make an impact? And so let's talk about that.
Right. So I thought about that. How do I want to make an impact? And I thought about coming out with one of those cliche answers like, oh, I want to leave a lasting legacy on this world, and everybody know who know the name Miller McGowan when it's my time to go back home. And but really, I want to impact my kids. I want to impact my wife. I want to impact the people that are closest to me. Because other than that, I mean, it doesn't really matter.
You're right.
You know, if I impact my kids by giving them leadership style or traits or whatever, then they're going to go on and they're going to impact somebody else, and they're going to impact somebody else. If I, you know, have an impact on my wife, then hopefully that means we're going to have a happy marriage, and it's going to stay that way. And if I impact the people that are closest to me, even if it's just right down the street to my friendly neighbors, right?
You've impacted Daniel.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
Then that's all that matters, because then I'm going to have happy neighbors, or I'm going to have happy work people. You know, what's funny is about my team at work at Lowe's, because I work remotely, I've never met anybody on my team in person, and I've been with Lowe's for almost 3 years.
Wow.
So talk about trying to have an impact on people that you've never met in person, never shook their hand. A handshake is a very big deal to me. So never having a, you know, look somebody directly in their eyes when it's not on a computer screen, or shaking their hand or anything like that. It's different.
Difficult to lead like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we're facing to dig all into that one, because I just wrote that down.
Especially because the way I learned how to lead was in the Army, when you're very much in somebody's face.
Yeah.
So yeah, different styles, had to adapt for sure.
Okay. So we'll come back to that. So first, I like the impact that you're talking about, and you're exactly right. We're only one generation from being forgotten, right?
Absolutely.
And so our job is to make an impact on those closest to us, so that they will make an impact. And so, but there's been a couple people on the show that I want to impact my kids. That's, you know, and look, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
And so anything extra, anything outside of that is extra. But let's talk about a moment in time when you realized that you were making an impact. Do you have a story for us?
Sure. This goes back to the Army. When I first became a leader, was when it was actually pretty crazy, because it was basic training. Like I said, I was that 27-year-old running around with a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds. I was quickly called grandpa. Very quickly. You know, why are you here? Or I was the only one within my group that had a college degree. Dude, why are you here? Why are you not an officer? Why, you know? And I was just like, don't worry about that. This is me changing my life. And I don't know, just me being that older guy, trying to bestow like any little tidbits of wisdom. I was seeing, you know, I was promoted to the platoon leader while I was in basic training. I was the first one to lead my platoon. And, you know, it's just, you get a lot of guys there, because infantry basic training is not for the faint at heart. I mean, it's not Ranger school or anything, but it's not easy. You get a lot of guys that this is the first time they've been away from mama and dada, and they don't know what to do. Maybe they were a pizza delivery guy before they just decided to join the Army and fight and run around with guns and stuff. And, you know, just an impact was just treating people like they're people, treating people like they can have an impact, you know, just calming people down. I had a very tumultuous childhood, like still in therapy to this day. But what my crazy childhood taught me was just how to be calm, just how to be calm in the face of chaos, calm in the face of adversity. So, you know, anytime guys were freaking out and I was just able to just look at them and say, hey, we've only got like 6 weeks left of this. That's it. And then we'll move on to something else, you know, or let's do this task. Let's get this finished. And then they'll let us go get something to eat or something. Just calm down.
So do you have a particular scenario where you brought that calm in? Like a story that you remember with details where it was crazy and you brought it down and you calmed it down.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, how graphic do you want to get? No, no. There was a situation in Afghanistan where we were taking fire, kind of by. It wasn't necessarily us that was in the fight. My time overseas, we were attached to a special operations unit, and our entire mission there was one of those hearts and minds mission, right? And we were trying to get out into the populace and show them. It was towards the end of the war over there, and we were trying to train military age males to kind of take care of themselves, be like a village police, and be able to fight back against the Taliban and whatever else. But anyways, we ended up kind of stumbling into a bad scene where there was bad guys on one side, there was good guys on the other side, and then somehow we ended up between them. And it wasn't the best place to be because they were firing at each other, and they're not very accurate when they're firing at each other. So me and a buddy of mine were stuck on a rooftop, and we had a wall that was probably 18 inches tall, and bullets whizzing over our head.
Oh man!
And the only thing we have to hide behind is this little 18-inch wall. And we were like, how did we get stuck up here? Like, this guy is just freaking out. How did we get stuck on this rooftop? And it's like, hey, we were doing Overwatch. We had guys on the ground. We were, up top. Why are we getting shot at? What is I don't even know what to do. Hey man, just calm down. Let's lay down. Let's lay down. Let's just lay down, look up at the stars. Looking up at the stars, you see tracer rounds flying over. And it's like, oh, look, shooting stars. No, it's like, hey, we'll be all right. Let's just sit right here. Let's lay down. Let's just wait this out. There's not really anything we can do. It was nighttime. We had our night vision goggles, but the people that were shooting were too far away to really be able to see. We couldn't really return fire. There was no point to return fire. If anything, all it would do was give away our location.
Yeah.
So it was just like, hey, look, we're going to sit right here. Hey, you got some smokes? All right, you smoke a cigarette. I'm going to lay right here, and we're going to talk. We're going to tell stories. And that's pretty much what we did for about an hour and a half.
Wow.
We just laid on a rooftop in the middle of Afghanistan in the middle of the night. And, we told the guys where we were. Hey, radioed in. Hey, we're up on this rooftop. We're just going to hang out for a little bit. Y'all tell us when the shots are done. Because, like I said, it wasn't our fight. There was nobody actively shooting at us. We just got stuck in the wrong spot at the wrong time. So,
but you were calm in that.
But I was calm in that because, we were getting bullets were going over our heads, but it wasn't necessarily, we weren't necessarily getting shot at.
Right.
So I just calmed down. I said, look, we got a good rock wall right here. We're hiding behind. Nothing can get to us as long as we don't lift our heads up. And so let's just do that. So eventually, shots cease-fired. And,
nice.
And we were able to come down off the rooftop, and that was that.
I love it. All right, so here's a good one for you. What is your approach to motivating other people?
Get in it with them. Why, too many times I've seen leaders that, I understand certain leaders maybe can't get right in the trenches or whatever, but especially if it's my immediate, subordinates or however you want to call it, my people, I'll never tell them to do something that I won't do myself, ever. And the same thing goes with my kids. I'm not going to tell my kids to clean their room if they've never seen me clean a room, right? So I'll clean it with them the first couple of times, and then after that, all right, I showed you how to do it. Now you do it. But no, get in it with them. Get in the trenches. I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to motivate you. We're going to complete this task, and then we're going to talk about it. And what's motivating for somebody else is talking about themselves, talking about what went well, talking about how they succeeded, talking about, how it got completed because of something they did. So not only am I giving them recognition, but I'm letting them recognize themselves.
So what I just heard you say is talking through it is part of the process.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we had this thing in the Army called the AAR, which was the after action review. So anytime we had a mission or a training scenario or anything, you immediately stopped, you sat down, and you did what was called the after action review, which was usually you said what it was, what were we doing, how did we do it, what was the result, and then you give 3 sustains. So what were 3 things that we did right and we want to keep doing right, And what were 3 things that went wrong, or not necessarily went wrong, but what were 3 things that we could improve on? What could we do better? And then you go off that. The next time you train, you do the same thing. You make sure that those 3 things don't happen again.
After action review.
After action review. And it happened. I mean, you do it right after the end.
What if
So
it's
it's fresh
that?
on your mind.
What if it's to implement that in the show? That's good. After action review.
We should
love
do
it.
it with our guests at the very end of the podcast. We just make them tell us what we did.
Hey, let's do the AAR. I love it. No, that's good stuff. So, again, you said your approach to motivating other people is to get in it with them and then talk about it. Right? So that's a huge deal. We got to write that down, Maddie.
Yeah.
I got it.
Too many times I've had leaders just be like, hey, go do that.
Why?
Why? Well, granted, if you said why to somebody in the army who just gave you an order, it's probably not a good thing. But I was that guy. I've always had the, I don't know if you want to call it audacity or the gumption or the intestinal fortitude, courage, to ask somebody that is above me, why do you want me to do it that way, or why do you want me to do this? And I've always kind of been like that devil's advocate. So, but I would never question somebody's motives without giving them an alternative solution, So, yeah, your way's good. Got it. I'm going to do it this way, and this is why. Or that is a good way. What if we did it this way? Because then this could happen. Or, how do you feel about that? So, yeah, I mean, my motivation is just to not be that kind of behind the desk. You go do that. Make me proud. Let me know when you get back so I can get the recognition for your work.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, Maddie, what do we never tell our kids?
I knew you were
Go
going to
ahead. Go with it.
One of the things that Jeremy told me, probably in one of the first few episodes, is don't, like, if I'm like, go clean your room, and my son will be like, why? I'm like, because I said so. I still do it, but a lot less now. But when I never thought about it, it's like, because I said so, just go do it. And now it's like, because if you don't, mommy's going to get really mad.
Well, my answer goes
the
a little
same
bit
thing.
farther. My answer goes a little bit farther now. Usually I give them I don't have to tell you why,
Right. Yeah.
because I'm daddy.
Yeah.
No, whenever I can't come up with a good enough reason, go clean your room. Why? Well, because I don't want to step on Legos again.
Yeah.
That's why I want you to clean your room.
Yeah.
So I don't step on Legos.
Yeah.
when I
Give
come
the
into your
reason.
room. Yeah.
Give the reason. Yeah. Just and your subordinates or your people or whoever you're leading deserves that. So and your kids deserve it too.
Yeah.
Well, I think too, Miller, you were just talking about you would be, why do I have to do it this way or whatever. One of the things we talked about in the last episode was being disruptive, which is a good thing. You think disruptive and you think it's a negative word. I mean, obviously it can be, but I think that's interesting that you said that.
It can be disruptive, and it can be a
He
negative.
is a disruptive leader. I can tell you that. But it's a good thing.
Right.
Okay. And
Well,
so
it depends. It depends on who you're being disruptive to.
That's true.
Because there was a company I worked for that I recruited. I was a corporate recruiter for the first company straight out of the Army. And about halfway through the 2 years that I worked there, we got a new vice president of recruiting. And she was a very much like, I've been doing this for X number of years. It's my way or the highway. This is how we're going to do it. When you do well, I'm taking the recognition, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yeah.
I was her devil's advocate. Everybody else around the table during meetings were yes men. I was not the yes man. We're going to do it this way. Why? Why do we do it that way? This way's easier. This way is less cumbersome. This way gets results. So anyways, she could only take so much of that.
it takes a strong leader to work with one of those.
Yeah. And she was not. And that's why she put her top producing recruiter, me, on disciplinary action for production.
Wow.
Because I rubbed her the wrong way too many times, and she basically said, "I'm giving you, here's your notice. You're pretty much out of here in 30 days." So,
Wow.
I said, "Yeah, all right."
Well, she screwed up because the kind that you are is very important to have for the health of an organization. So
I appreciate that.
Oh yeah. We're about to get into that because we're cut from the same cloth, my friend. All right. So, has your leadership style evolved over time? Would you say that it's changed?
I don't think it has, because it's worked. It keeps working. Too many times you hear whenever you watch an Army movie, right? Or you hear news about Army or whatever, all you hear is, that drill sergeant laying into you, right? Or some, staff sergeant or sergeant major just laying into you. And that very much was the mentality of the Army when I got in. If you don't shape up and do what you're supposed to do, be in the right place at the right time in the right uniform, you're going to get somebody yelling at you 10 milliseconds away from your face so that you can get all the spittle.
That was a real thing.
That was very much a real thing. Or you're going to get yelled at. I'm going to get yelled at while I'm in the push-up position, going down and up while somebody's just, spitting in my eye. That does not promote somebody wanting to do for you what you ask them to do.
It does not promote influence.
Exactly. If you are berating me to the tune that I can't hear my own self think because you're yelling at me, telling me I'm worthless, when you then ask me to do something, it's not going to make me want to jump to it and get to work, right?
Right.
Unless it's the negative reinforcement of, if I don't go do this, this guy's going to yell at me even harder, which it might make me go do what you ask me to do, but I'm probably not going to be very efficient at it. And I'm probably not going to do it well, and I'm not going to do it fast. So I adopted a different style of leadership. I treated my guys like they were human beings. And so much so that when I would ask them to do something, they wouldn't ask why. They wouldn't, they just wouldn't ask. I mean, it wouldn't be, why do I have to go do that or whatever? I mean, they would go and they would do it, and they would do it well, and they would do it fast, and they'd come back and say, all right, now what else can we do?
Because you made them want to.
Because I made them want to. And then when they got done, I gave them the recognition. I told them they did a good job. It wasn't, when then my superiors would come to me and say, hey, that got done well. Great job, Sergeant McGowan. I'd be like, thank you. But it was Private so-and-so, or it was, Private First Class so-and-so that did that. And then he'd be like, well, then that would be, a sign of your leadership. So, that's what I'm saying. Like I said, if my team succeeds, then that makes me succeed. If my team does well, then that makes me look good, because then that's a reflection of my leadership. So no, my leadership style hasn't really changed or evolved very much. It's a good leadership style because it adapts to adults and teens and children of all ages. Just treat people the way, it's that age-old rule of thumb, right? Treat others the way that you want to be treated.
The golden rule.
The golden rule, right? That's my leadership style. Treat people the way that I want to be treated.
Okay. That's good. So, who has been a major influence in your life? Tell me about a leader that led you. Tell me about them.
So I thought about this long and hard. And really, there hasn't been any.
Really?
And it's not to say that I haven't been surrounded by good leaders and I haven't been directly influenced by great people, right? Again, cliche, I could say my grandfather was an amazing person, an amazing leader, and he taught me to really, him and my brother were the ones that taught me to be the man that I am today. I lost my father when I was a young age. So in a way that impacted me, because believe me, that's a lot of who I am today was because I had to grow up at a very early age.
Well, how old were you when you died?
I was 12.
Wow.
Yeah. So from there, from I was no longer 12. No. Right. I don't want to say that I haven't had great leaders and there hasn't been, but I can't put a specific thumb on this leader made me the leader that I am because XYZ. I've had great leaders. I've watched great leaders. I've been impacted by great leaders. But I think all in all, it's because of, and I've also seen, heard, and been impacted by terrible leaders. And it's because of, the multitude that has shaped me and impacted me. I think I get impacted every day. I get impacted by my pastor constantly. I get impacted by my wife constantly, by my children. Whenever I see my children do something that I had no idea they had the capability of doing, it blows me away. Whenever somebody at work does something and I'm like, man, that's great. That's awesome. My leader now at work, like I said, never met her in person. But she is an amazing person, an amazing leader, and her leadership style is pretty much putting us, way ahead of her, and making sure that we always have everything we need to be successful. So
that's interesting too.
Yeah.
I always like to talk about the leaders that I talk to.
Yeah.
Who's leading you?
Yeah.
And what do you think about them?
So leaders with me they figure out very quickly that if you're not giving me autonomy, you're not going to be, I'm not going to be very good for you. I have always been, and I think it's, again, goes back to losing my dad early, tumultuous childhood, not a lot of parental guidance in my early years. And I think that caused me to really learn who I was and to learn that to do things on my own and to do things my way. Now, I've been married 13 years. I do think everything my wife says to me to do. If she listens to this, yes, honey, I do whatever you want me to do. But other than her, I need autonomy. If you try to micromanage me or tell me to do my process, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, we're not going to be on good terms.
We're not getting along.
We're not getting along. I'll do it because at the end of the day, I gotta put food on the table, right?
You'll do it for a little while.
I'll be looking for another
That's
job
right.
while we're doing it.
That's right.
Yeah, and so my leader now gives me absolutely all the autonomy I need. And the only time she would ever check in, other than our weekly check-in or bi-weekly check-ins, just say, hey, how you doing? If my numbers were to ever slip and she had to cover for me for something, then she would step in and say, all right, what's going on here?
But she's going to step in and ask what's going on, not with a club.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. She's going to cover for me. She's going to put it on herself.
Yeah.
And then she's going to come back to me and say, hey, I covered for you, but why did I cover for you?
And that's why you follow her.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
Absolutely.
That is wise. And if you're a leader out there listening, take notes because Mr. Miller is not on this island by himself. There is lots of great leaders out there that operate like that. And if you have one working for you, you should acknowledge it. That's just the truth of it.
Well, what you just said about your leader now is something that we've talked about a little bit, but it's, as a leader, it's great to give your team the recognition that they deserve, obviously, but also when your team does maybe slack or doesn't hit the goals, you're right there with them. Like you have to take that.
You're shouldering it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You have to take that too. So
That's good.
Yeah.
That is real good. So what I have to ask, I just got done saying last week that leadership is learned and it's, it can be built. Okay. And so you not having, I'm not saying you're not having, you said there was people that have impacted you, but what do you do for continuous learning right now? Do you read books?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I soak it up.
Do you?
I listen to books more than I read them. I try to read them, but I'm a father of 4 with a full-time job. So reading is not always something that I have time to do. And when I do have time to read, more than likely it's the Bible. I'm going to open it up and read some passages. but I do, if I got 10 minutes, I've got the 7 Habits of the Effective Leader, or 7 Habits of the Effective People, the title loses me, but that's there, right? Or Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules of Life.
I went to one of his shows one time. Man. Have you ever been?
I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't.
So he came to Atlanta last year, and I took my wife, and we just went on a date, and we went to his show. It was very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I listen a lot. There's a book that I probably can't say the title of it on this podcast, but it's by a guy named Mark Manson, and it's The Subtle Arts of Not Giving a F. And
yeah, don't say that.
But that was a great impactful book. Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning was probably the book that changed my life 100%.
Say that again.
Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning.
So a lot of times the listeners, they always call me and they'll say, "Hey, what was that?" And I'm like, "I don't know," and then I can't figure it out. But maybe we can mark this in the episode and put it on one of the shorts.
Yeah, he was a psychologist that was a Holocaust survivor, and he was at Auschwitz. And the first half of the book is his time in Auschwitz, and then the second half of the book is his type of therapy, his type of psychology that he coined himself, and just goes through it. And yeah, I mean, anybody who survived anything like that, you're going to want to listen to what they have to say and how they survived it and how they got through it and everything. So, but yeah, that book was amazing. But yeah, I read, but I listen to that stuff. Craig Groeschel's a very big one for me right now.
He's good.
When the War in Your Mind was one of the ones that he did that just blew me away. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, I listen to fiction too. So
do you?
Yeah, I got.
Yeah, I don't listen to any fiction.
Yeah, I need entertainment sometimes.
I got you. No, it's good. So, what do you do for hobbies?
Oh man, somebody always asks me this question, and I never know what to say because I have hobbies. I have hobbies that I would love to do.
Theater.
And the theater. I do enjoy theater. I do enjoy Broadway musicals and all that good stuff. But no hobbies. I like fly fishing. I do it once a year, and it's amazing. Me and my cousin, who is still in the Army, we meet once a year for a weekend to go fly fishing somewhere. And then after that, we swap war stories by a fire while we drink bourbon and smoke cigars and tell each other about how amazing it is that we're not, that we are where we are and we're not dead in a ditch or in jail like we should have been. But so fly fishing, I like golf. Again, I'm a father of 4, so golf doesn't happen very often, but when it does, I enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of the Atlanta Braves. Love Georgia Bulldogs football. So hobbies, they're there. They're there when I need them.
Just a few.
Yeah, just
That's
a
good.
few.
All right. So back into the meat of it right here. Any setbacks in your life other than your dad at 12, right? He passed at 12. But any other setbacks? Is there been anything that created? So I'll dig into this a little bit. So one of the things that I have is I have a fear. I have a couple fears, okay? And I'm not going to get into my fears today because we're interviewing you. But I have a couple fears that what I say drive me. And so I like to understand what each leader has is, and I can tell that you're a passionate, strong leader. But what drives that in you? What makes that there? What promotes it in your life? Is there a fear or something that's happened that you don't want to see happen again? Or talk about that.
So I was the poor kid that grew up with a family that was comfortable, that was well off, right? All of my friends that I grew up with, all were well off friends, well off families. Fathers were doctors or whatever else. So I was the poor kid that I latched on to the rich kids because they had better toys, right?
Who raised you, by the way?
Me.
Your dad passed at 12.
My dad passed at 12. I did have my mother. I was with my mother, but she was an alcoholic, and just it wasn't wasn't a good time. So I lived in her house, but you know, she would pass out around 8 o'clock, and then it was just me. So yeah.
Did you have a neighbor or a cousin or a?
I mean, I had my grandparents until, you know, they passed. My grandparents were old, but I mean, the two best human beings other than Jesus Christ that ever walked the face of this earth was my Mimi and Papa. But, you know, so I had people, right? But then also didn't want to burden people. I didn't want to, you know, I would spend the night at my friend's house a lot, but when I got my driver's license at 16, I was gone. I didn't want to be home, so I wouldn't be home. So what drives me is the fact that so I have two big fears. And I'll go off what you said. One of my biggest fear is dying alone. Or just being alone, period. That was my childhood. I was alone. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that for my kids. So my dad passed when he was 46 of a heart attack. So I'm turning 41 next month. And, you know, my doctor says I have somewhat high cholesterol. So I'm doing everything I can to exercise and eat right. And,
Don't take statins.
I don't plan on it.
Okay.
But, you know, so I don't want to do that to my kids. So that's a fear of leaving my kids without a father when they're young. But getting to what I was meaning being that I was that poor kid surrounded by rich people was, you know, what drives me is I don't want my kids to ever be that poor kid, or the kid that is jealous of everybody around them for having other stuff. And we're not really, well, I'm not materialistic. My kids are, of course, materialistic. They're kids. They love video games. They love toys. They love, you know, their stuff. But, you know, I want them to have that. And what drives me is making sure that I always make enough money to have us in a comfortable lifestyle. You know, my kids, they ask for things and we tell them no. They're not, well, they're probably spoiled, but we don't spoil them on purpose. We don't just randomly go out and buy our kids the most expensive whatever. It's mostly Christmas and birthday for big toys. But, you know, I want to make sure that I live a good, comfortable life. And I think a big fear of mine is losing all of that. I went through a big bout of imposter syndrome, recently, that I always had a fear that at any point, all of this could just crumble.
100.
That it could just all go away. And one of the things that happened, like I said, I had a vice president that decided that she didn't want me to have my job anymore. So I remember that day I was sitting in a stairwell because I worked in Atlanta, and I was in a corporate office, and I was sitting in a stairwell sobbing on the phone, telling my wife that I'm probably losing my job in 30 days. And then my wife sobbing because she wasn't working at the time. And it was like, what do we do? We have credit card debt. We have car payments. We have this. We have this. I mean, this was just loading up. So she quickly adopted Dave Ramsey and his debt snowball. And we said, we are never going to feel like this again, to where if one of us has to lose our job, we'll be okay until the next job comes around. And so, yeah, we're debt free. We don't have any more debt, and that's all because of her. And so that's, you know, we want to be comfortable.
Dave Ramsey will accept donations to the Impact Podcast. Rubber plugging you. So it's interesting that the very story that you just told is one of my fears.
Oh, God.
Okay, so I had to go to a sales training a while back, and I went to the sales training, and we're sitting there, and the dude comes out, and he's supposed to be training us on how to sell this product. And he starts out by passing this questionnaire out, and he says, write your fears down. And I'm like, bro, I didn't come here for counseling. But it's interesting what drives a person oftentimes is a fear. And when you figure out what that fear is, obviously you know how to stoke the fire. Okay. And so one of the things that has always driven me is the fear of that, what you just said, the same exact thing you went through. I've always said, Lord, I don't want that to happen to me. I don't, but it can at any time.
Absolutely.
If you're working for somebody, it can happen,
Absolutely.
and so.
You hear about layoff, especially because I work in a retail company, a retail brand. You hear about it's just retail apocalypse out there. You hear so many different retail brands are closing 500 stores or laying off 13,000 people or whatever else. And you're just like, man, are we next? Luckily Lowe's is a very successful brand and it's doing everything. It's a Fortune 50 company and it's doing everything it can. But what happens if that day, even if the brand is doing well, it happens just that day, somebody above says, do we need Miller's job anymore?
Right.
Do we need this many recruiters on payroll? Who can we cut?
Right.
And
well, yeah, exactly. And I've always been the guy, I don't want to be on the list.
Right.
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 And I came up through construction. So I was a plumber and a pipe fitter, service guy, but I didn't ever want to be on the layoff list. That was what fueled me. That's what made me want to be the best, and even today, I want to be the best at what I do and what God gives me to steward. I want to steward it well.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
And
I want to be the best at what I'm doing. I want to make sure that my numbers are stacking up against
everybody
else's so that whenever it is time to look at that list, I'm at the top of it.
Right.
So we're going to say, all right, the top of the list of people we're not cutting. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. So I love that. So let's see how much time we got.
You're fine.
What would you say is the most important message before we get there, before we do that, let's do a story. So do you have a story that you want to share with us, Maddie and I, and the audience? Any kind of story that you feel like will resonate and help somebody?
Man. Yeah. I mean, if I can resonate and help anybody, right? So this is leadership. So if you want to become a leader, I want to look at it from that point of view. One of my other big drivers is advancing my career. I want to continue to grow. I want to continue to move up. And I keep telling my boss to this day, like, I want to get back to where I was in the Army when I was leading soldiers, when soldiers were following me into combat, relying on me, right? So I believe that I'm a leader regardless of name or stature or anything like that. I lead my team, even though by title and pay grade, I'm not the manager of that team. So if I can give any type of story behind that, I was told, because I told my manager that I want to move up in the company. So she said, all right, I'm going to champion you. I'm going to do anything I can to help you do that. And one of the things that she did was to help get me mentorships with other managers in the company so that I know her leadership style. I know how she manages. I know who she is. There are other great leaders. I need to meet them. Not only am I meeting them and learning their leadership style, but they are also then knowing me, knowing my leadership style, knowing what drives me, so that my name just keeps getting pushed up lists, right?
So what you're digging on right now is it takes others along the way for you to grow.
Oh, absolutely.
And
you can't do this yourself.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And you have to lean into that. So, and what Miller was just saying was, if I'm going to help somebody that wants to lead, number one, you got to know you want to lead, and you've got to voice that.
Yeah,
you got to tell people.
straight up. Yeah.
And then what it requires a partnership, and they have to push you through.
Yeah, and it's like, for example, with me, I work remotely, right? I work from my house, so I can't just go be seen by all the senior directors and stuff and make sure that they're seeing me and make sure they're seeing me at, company events and stuff like that. So the only ways that I can make myself known is either A, by my numbers, or B, make sure that other people are speaking my name. So the story that I wanted to say is that I was on one of these mentorship calls with one of these other managers. I've maybe spoken to this other manager maybe one other time. And we were talking, and I said, what are some things that you have either A, heard about me, or C, noticed from me whenever we're in, calls at the same time or whatever else, or, that I am doing well. So I know something that I'm doing well, so I can continue to grow on that and build that. And she goes, Miller, I know we haven't talked very much, and you don't really, this is going to be a surprise. You don't talk very much in some of our meetings. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. Because I know if I get started, I won't stop. But no, she said, when you do talk, even on a Microsoft Teams virtual call, when you do talk, it gets quiet. People stop what they're doing, stop what they're saying, and they listen to what you're saying. And I said, that just blew me away. I was like, you noticed that? Like, she's like, yeah, because people aren't side chatter, or there's not this one. People stop talking and they look at their cameras and they listen to what you're saying, because anytime I've heard you speak, Miller, what you're saying is meaningful. What you're saying has an impact, right? So that story, what that means to me is what I want to tell people that are trying to grow or trying to learn. Don't think that people aren't noticing. Don't think that nobody knows who you are, or don't think that nobody's listening to you, because people are. Whether it's positive, whether it's negative, people are going to listen to you or hear you. So make sure that it's positive. Especially, it's kind of like what you were saying earlier, Maddie. If you are being disruptive, or you've got another way of doing something, or you don't want to do something one way, bring a solution. Don't just be that disruptive person to be that disruptive person. Be that disruptive person because your way can be a little bit better. But and do it tactfully. That's another thing. I learned very quickly, especially in my time in the Army, if I'm going to be disruptive, I'm going to do it tactfully. I'm going to do it with, I'm going to be respectful. Yeah. Your way sucks, but so yeah, that was one of those things that told me that I was on the right track.
It's good.
I think it's really cool that your leader, a lot of times managers in companies are almost scared, to have someone like you underneath them that could potentially be better than them, Well,
that's what I want to do. I always want to train my replacement, right?
Well, so it's kind of like her giving you the opportunity and setting you up with some mentorships and things like that. She's not scared. It's like she's got the confidence in herself, obviously, but also like she knows what you're worth and that you're a great leader, and because you don't see that very often in companies. Yeah.
It's so important. That is what. Okay, you just said something that was triggered. That's what separates the great leaders. The great leaders do what he just said. He's always training their replacements, and there's no insecurity in that person. That leader, the great leader, has no insecurity, and they want you to be better, right? And so that's something that lives inside of someone that does not live in all leaders.
Right.
And then two, the fact, like you said, that she's pushing him into other managers, she's completely secure with herself. And even the great leaders will also say this, even if they do surpass me, good for them. Right. Yeah. If they take my job, good for them, right? And that is a true leader because they're more concerned with their people than themselves.
Watching my people when I was in the Army and a leader, watching my people get promoted was some of the best rewards ever, because it was a reflection of my leadership.
It's a reflection of your leadership, and they don't see it that way. And listen, I'll tell you, and I'll be honest, I've in my time, I've trained some folks up that would be a threat to me. Okay. And I think if I'm not careful, I'll think, oh man, should I? No, let them go. Let them go, man.
Right.
You know, man, grow them up and let them go.
And like I said, on my team, you know, like I want my numbers always stacking up against the best.
Yeah.
So it would be probably smart of me to not help my team members to make sure that their numbers are lower than mine. But that's just not the case.
No, let them.
I have people on my team ask me for help because they're, you know, they don't want to bother our manager or whatever else. And I'm like, hey, come on.
Yeah.
You know, I'll help you through it.
Let them soar, bro. Let them soar. Give it to them and let them go. That's good. So, and again, we're talking about leadership greatness here, you know, so, man, I have really enjoyed this, Miller. So before we go though, we got to get the most important message out. What is your most important? I mean, so what you just said is, if there was one thing that you could share, would be that people are listening, people are noticing what you're doing as a leader. But the most important message to you, kind of a closing statement here. So, Maddie, before he does this, do you have any questions, concerns, anything you want to bring back up?
Mm-mm. I mean, what you just hit on was the don't think that people aren't noticing. I mean, it's a good takeaway from this episode, because it's very hard to just get in your set ways and just, you know, not, if you're just gliding, you know, it's like you're not going up. So
absolutely. So to answer your question, my final thought, right. You invited me on this podcast. Well, I told Daniel, hey, if you ever need a guest, just let me know. And then lo and behold, you needed a guest. But I'm not some CEO, right? I'm not some general in the military. I'm not this guy who did that or that guy who did that. I'm a father of 4. I'm a husband. I'm a son of God. I'm a military veteran and who led soldiers. And currently, right now, I do not hold a manager title. I am not a leader by title. But that doesn't mean that I'm not a leader every single day of my life.
No, you are a leader.
Whether or not I'm leading my kids, whether or not I'm leading my family, or leading at work, you know, if you want to be a leader, if you want to be an impactful leader, it does not take a title to do so.
100%. I love
Lead. Never stop leading. But don't ever think that you're above following either.
The best leaders are the best followers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say that earlier when Maddie was talking about your leader. You know, this guy right here, I can tell you, he is a good soldier. And typically, strong leaders like you, Miller, are the best soldiers. And, you know, good leaders are good followers. I was told that one time. I told my boss, I said, how do you expect me to lead these people? And he said, learn to follow. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's so stupid. What are you talking about? That sounds so dumb. You want me to lead them, so you want me to learn to follow? That's not leading.
Years down the road, man, that guy was a genius.
Dude, what are you talking about? Yeah, 10 years later, he was the greatest leader I ever worked for. Yeah. And he told me that. Yeah. And learn to follow, buddy, because that's how you learn to lead.
But never stop leading.
Never stop leading.
Never stop leading.
I love it. Man, this is good. I have really enjoyed it. We should definitely go have coffee sometime.
Yeah,
I'm serious, bro. I could talk about this stuff for days.
Absolutely.
Daniel, this was a heck of an invite. I'm jacked.
Thank you.
I want to talk to you more.
Yeah.
I really do, but we don't have enough time.
Episode 2.
Yeah.
We're like part 2.
Part 2.
So there is a lot of stuff we could uncover and talk about, and we're going to have to do that. I'm serious. Can you come back?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, perfect.
I told you I'm a sponge. I love to read. I love to learn. If you're not learning, then you're not growing. So, yeah.
I definitely want you back.
Right.
So, hey, we're going to have some time to close here, and then we'll get back next week for another mandate. I can't remember which one it is. But, Miller, thank you for coming.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. It was a great pleasure.
Yeah, dude, it was awesome. So, Maddie? Good?
Good. Yeah, this was great. This
Thank
was
y'all
awesome.
for having me.
Absolutely.
This is awesome.
Signing off. Thank you, Miller.
Thank you.
Signing off.
See ya.